Tennessee number 10 in the coaches poll. That leads us to 4 Downs, brought to you by Andy Mason and AndyMasonRealEstate.com.
4 Downs. 4 questions. 4 answers. The Dave Hooker Show.
4
Downs. A presentation of OffTheHookSports.com.
Vols number 10 in the coaches poll. Too high, too low. We'll get to that. Any teams snubbed that as well with John Adams and Caleb Calhoun. I'm Dave Hooker. Let's go ahead and start it right now with 4 Downs, and it's brought to you by Andy Mason, AndyMasonRealEstate.com. How about the best service and the best prices in the biz? That's what Andy Mason is all about. I'm about to make a home purchase. Andy Mason's my guy. AndyMasonRealEstate.com. Over 40 years of experience in his office there in North Knoxville or East Tennessee. So 4 Downs now. Number 1, what is it, Coop?
Coop here. First down.
All right, so that's first down. Let me ask you first, Caleb, are the Vols too low at number 10 in the coaches poll before we get John's thoughts?
No. You can have some teams ahead. You could say there are some teams that shouldn't be ahead of them, but they're certainly not too low at all. I don't think that at all. I think there's some teams behind them that you could argue should be ahead of them. So I think they're fine at 10.
John, I kind of thought 10 was a good landing space myself. I guess we're all supposed to disagree nowadays in the Skip Bayless world, but I didn't have a problem with 10 at all. Did you?
I thought it was ridiculous. I just went to the Skip Bayless world. No, I didn't have a problem with that at all. I think it's a little higher than I thought Tennessee would be. I would have had Tennessee in the top 10, but I rank Tennessee a little higher than most people. I looked at preseason magazines, 12, 13. I think a lot of people view Tennessee as a top 15 team. So the coaches said they're a top 10 team. I wonder if that's a respect well earned by Josh Heupel from coaches thinking, man, I don't want to have to play against that offense. It scares me.
I thought the same thing.
I'll be curious if the Associated Press, the media poll, has Tennessee that high. I'm guessing it'll be maybe 12 or 13. But then again, the media's heard about Joe Milton's arm strength and that he can throw it through a brick wall. So maybe he's a circus act. So that will attract some media attention. We'll see.
Do you think he gets sick of that?
No.
But ask about how strong his arm is at any point.
No, no, I would be like, no, I can't say that in politically correct world. Forget that analogy. But no, I don't think he does.
Okay. Yeah, it wouldn't bother me either. Second down, Coop.
Cooper Mays here. Second down.
Thank you. All right. So how about this? Who's ahead of Tennessee that is too high? So right now ahead of Tennessee, if you want to look at the rankings, Georgia 1, followed by Michigan, Alabama, Ohio State, LSU, Southern California at 6, Penn State 7, Florida State 8, Clemson 9. Well, Clemson, they just beat. So that's going to be a hard sell for those that like comparative scores. Like straight up, they just played each other comparative scores.
Yeah, you could look at it that way, but I don't. I mean, it's a new season, a new team. But Clemson is one team you might look at. I kind of look at Penn State too. I'm never a real believer in Penn State. I think James Franklin's a really good coach, but it's kind of like, okay, come see us after you beat Michigan and Ohio State in the same season. I just see it as a second tier. So I could see it stumbling somewhere else, losing to those teams and not being in the top 10. When I look at that top 10, the main thing that struck me, I thought LSU was too low. I think LSU is a playoff team. I think it's better than Alabama. But, thank you.
Caleb's a big believer in LSU.
I'm being called an LSU homer on the show, John. So because I think the same thing.
Well, yeah. I mean, when I start looking at LSU, it probably has more star power than just about anybody, and it has depth as well. Brian Kelly's done a great job filling holes with transfers. So yeah, that's a team I look at as too low. Otherwise, there was nothing awful about it that really stood out to me, other than I thought LSU was too low, and I still don't quite understand why people think Alabama should be better than LSU. It just doesn't make sense. It may turn out to be that, but looking at it on paper in preseason, to me, LSU is a notch above Alabama.
I think this might answer the next question, but third down.
Well,
Cooper,
before we get there, I
Yes.
just have to bring up there
Yes.
is a team y'all all miss, which is Florida State has no business in the top 10. Florida State lost to Clemson last year. They didn't beat a ranked team last year outside of LSU in the opener, and they're number 8. Everybody should be upset about Florida State being a top 15 team at this moment.
I could be talked into that. I also think that Penn State's a little bit high too.
But Penn State went 11-2. Florida State went 10-3 and played the worst schedule in the history of man last year.
Yeah, but it beat LSU.
In the opener by 1 in a fluke in Brian Kelly's first game coaching at LSU. They play that game in a month later. LSU wins by 30.
But I just think Florida State will be better this year. That game, if Florida State beats LSU again, then it's a strong candidate for the college football playoff.
They're not going to come within 3 scores of LSU this year.
Wow. Thought I was too high on LSU. Jeez, you need to walk around campus there in Baton Rouge.
Yeah.
John, I'm from Memphis. I know a lot about Mike Norvell. I'm not high on him as a coach, and I am high on LSU as a program. And for the first time since Nick Saban, LSU has a coach with a few brain cells. And
Ouch. Wow. A couple of those guys won national championships too, but you're right. They weren't really bright. What down is it, Coop?
Tennessee center Cooper Mays here. Third down.
Okay, I think we kind of answered that. Who below Tennessee should be higher? You both think LSU?
well, LSU's ahead of Tennessee.
Well, they're not below Tennessee.
Oh, okay. I thought you. Okay, I meant below. Then anyway.
No, if LSU were below Tennessee, if you want to play fantasy football, if LSU were below Tennessee, then I would think they should be higher.
Okay, I meant below, lower number. I misread the question. Sorry. Who that is ranked behind Tennessee should be higher? Just the immediacy. You have Washington 11, Texas 12, Notre Dame 13, Utah 14, Oregon 15, TCU 16, Kansas State 17, Oregon State 18, Oklahoma 19, North Carolina 20. There's none of those that I'll look at that I would push ahead of Tennessee. I'm a little surprised that Notre Dame wasn't a little bit closer, not because they should be, just because they're a bit of a media darling. Now, I don't have one, guys, that's behind Tennessee that I would have appreciably higher and perhaps overtake the Vols.
I would probably go. I don't think I wouldn't put it ahead of Tennessee, but I like Utah. Even after what happened, I would think that Utah coaches and players from last season look back on that opener against Florida and wonder, how in the world did we lose to that team? How in the world? I mean, Utah matches up well with the way Southern Cal plays. It matches up well with the way a lot of the Pac-12 teams play. It's sort of a contrarian in that league, and it's got a proven track record. I could see it winning the conference. So yeah, that's a team I think, but I don't know that I would have it ahead of Tennessee. But I think Florida's headed for big trouble in that opener.
No, I agree. Anybody that you would have moved perhaps close to Tennessee or higher than Tennessee out of the teams behind them, Caleb?
I'm with John Adams on this. It's Utah. And Utah returns their quarterback. They've cost the last 2 years in a row. People forget this. They've won the Pac-12 title, and in the process, cost the team they beat a shot at the college football playoff.
Yep.
And they've been knocking on the door. They return the same quarterback. Don't be surprised if they actually get over the hump this year in a very, very lame duck, awkward Pac-12 season that's about to happen.
Yeah, I don't know what.
That's I kind of wonder about TCU. when it scored a touchdown on Georgia, I thought, man, this team could be pretty good next year too. But then Georgia kind of ran it up, so it got out of hand.
Yeah.
Was that 65-7? But that early touchdown
At that point,
kind of won me over. Yeah.
when-
So I just couldn't get away from that. Yeah, this team might be pretty good next year
Yeah.
too.
at that point, you're like Eric Ainge calling out Sanford Stadium. 4th down, Cooper Mays.
All SEC center Cooper Mays here. 4th down.
Any team snubbed? Any team's just not on the list that you would have on the list? You want to look at the back end of that. You've got North Carolina, Wisconsin, Ole Miss, Tulane, Texas Tech, Texas A&M rounding out the top 25. I'm not even sure that I would have Texas A&M in there over South Carolina in particular. And I'm not just saying that because I know we have a lot of South Carolina viewers. And then you have University of Texas San Antonio that did pick up 59 votes. I'm just mentioning that because, of course, Tennessee plays them. So they would be 26, 27, 28. They would be 29 on this list. Florida got 63 votes, so they were behind South Carolina. So if you're looking for an SEC school that should feel snubbed, I guess it's South Carolina, who is technically at 27, right?
Yeah, but I don't think having South Carolina basically 27 is a snub. I mean, there's still plenty of questions about that team. You look at what it did down the stretch, it really impressed me what it did to Tennessee. It beat Clemson, went toe-to-toe with Notre Dame, easily could have won that game. But I just don't know about its offensive line. I'm not sure about its defense. I like Spencer Rattler, and I like his receiving core, but other than that, I don't know. So I thought that was about right. I don't think South Carolina should have a beef about that. Now, if it can protect Spencer Rattler and its defense plays pretty good, then yeah, it could make the top 25. See, I'm opposite with you on Texas A&M. I think Texas A&M is very talented at a number of positions or groups, really. Secondary, defensive front. The O-line was racked by injuries last year. Really 2 top-flight receivers. But it's dependent on maybe a freshman running back. So I would have Texas A&M higher.
Well, it will be interesting, Caleb, and I don't know that you and I've discussed this particularly. Does Texas A&M have that calming effect that Tennessee had when David Cutcliffe came back that basically postponed the inevitable? Do they have that with Bobby Petrino? Now, the two individuals are very different, but does it make things, does he simplify things offensively to help them improve, I guess is what I'm bouncing around at.
No, John and I totally disagree on this. Bobby Petrino and Jimbo Fisher is going to be a disaster made in heaven. Or made in hell, excuse me. And I'm sorry. I would agree that maybe South Carolina shouldn't be top 25. I don't think Texas A&M should be. I think I'm seeing Derek Dooley, Sal Sinceri right here I'm seeing a clash. Okay, put it this way. How about this? Former Dave Clawson. Dave Clawson is a good coach. Fulmer was a good offensive mind. They did not work well together. That's what I'm seeing here because I just don't see this happening because both Petrino and Fisher are stuck in an era where they don't let quarterbacks make decisions for themselves. And so then when they call the wrong play, they come out and say, well, we just didn't execute. No, you called the wrong play. And for once in your life, Jimbo Fisher, take blame for something. And I don't believe in Texas A&M.
I think they're going to have one good little resurgent year and then fall by the wayside. But let me ask you this. So Texas A&M's 25. South Carolina, Florida, to Kentucky received votes. So did Arkansas, considerable amount of votes, and you drop down to Auburn. So if you had to replace A&M, if you had to, with either of those teams, John, who would it be? And let me get you, Caleb. Mine's South Carolina.
Yeah, if I had to take one team, it would be South Carolina. I don't know how in the world anybody with any knowledge of this team picked Florida to make the top 25. That team, and other than running backs, it's got 2 really good running backs and maybe some good ones behind those guys. What does Florida have going for it? Graham Mertz at quarterback? Please. I don't know about its offensive line. It doesn't have the caliber of athletes it usually has on defense. This is a losing team. You voted for it in the top 25?
Yeah.
Don't you feel guilty about that? Don't you feel stupid?
So stupid.
I
Think
mean,
about it. When you're alone, talk to yourself about that and say, why did I do that? What's wrong with me?
Yes, you're trying to meditate, and that pick keeps coming
Yeah.
into your brain, and you're trying to clear your head just about your breathing. But at the end of the day, you keep thinking to yourself, I had Florida somewhere in the top 25.
I'm a total loser and don't deserve to live.
guys, it's no SEC team that should be in over Texas A&M. It's a team Dave mentioned, the best group of 5 team this year, and they play Tennessee, Texas, San Antonio.
It's like UGA, except not quite. UTSA, they get really mad if you call them Texas San Antonio. I found on the message board, on our YouTube message board.